Picture this. You wake up, it's Tuesday morning.
The hardest day of the week.
Right. And your alarm just went off. Your eyes aren't even fully open yet, but your thumb is already hovering over Instagram.
Just pure muscle memory.
Exactly. It's happening completely below the level of conscious thought. And immediately, before you've even thrown off the covers, before you've had a sip of coffee, you just feel it.
That hum.
Yes. This familiar, low-grade hum in your chest. And it's not exactly anxiety, right? And it's not quite shame. It's this deeply unsettling feeling of contamination.
Oh, contamination is the perfect word for it. It's a profoundly modern sickness.
Yeah.
It's this acute sense of being polluted, not by smog or toxins, but just by the sheer volume of the world demanding your attention.
Right, because you haven't even started your day, and already you're just bloated on other people's lives, other people's opinions. They're perfectly curated, soft-lit breakfasts.
And so what's the immediate impulsive reaction to that feeling?
Well, the cure, obviously. You make this crisp, virtuous resolution while you're literally still staring at the ceiling.
You declare a detox.
You say, that's it, I'm doing a 7-day digital detox.
Yeah.
And here's the profound irony of our culture. Before you can actually disconnect, you feel this almost biological urge to announce the withdrawal to your followers.
Of course you do.
You spend 20 minutes composing this minimalist carousel post with some quote about, presence and protecting your peace.
Naturally.
You are literally harvesting likes and engagement and validation before the detox even begins. Like, you are consuming social capital to announce that you are no longer consuming.
Which perfectly sets the mission for this deep dive today.
Sure.
Because we aren't just looking at an article.
Right.
We are plunging straight into our own cultural subconscious.
Oh, I'm ready.
We are going to decode this modern obsession with detoxing and purification. Because the very act of cleansing ourselves, deleting the apps, retreating to the woods, buying the 3-day juice cleanse. Right. That whole impulse has morphed into the most sophisticated form of captivity our culture has ever invented.
Wow.
We are desperately trying to cure our modern neuroses using the exact same logic of consumption that created them in the first place.
I feel personally attacked already. And if you are listening to this right now, maybe sipping a $12 green juice and feeling slightly guilty about it, you probably do too. So consider us all fellow patients in this cultural therapy session today.
I love that. Group therapy.
Let's unpack the mechanics of this. Because we've essentially taken the refusal to participate in consumerism, and we've somehow transformed that refusal into a luxury product. Contamination isn't physical anymore, it's a moral failing.
Exactly. Because the marketplace is infinitely adaptable. Once an economic system exhausts its capacity to sell you more things to fill a void, it has to pivot.
Right.
So it starts selling you the ritual of emptying the void instead.
That makes so much sense.
Just look at the mechanisms of this austerity aesthetic. You have the $2,800 digital detox retreat in Sedona.
Oh yeah, complete with the enforced silence and the morning cold plunges.
Right. You have $95 ceramic water filters to quote-unquote purify your hydration. You have $30 a month meditation apps.
To cleanse your mind of the anxiety caused by the exact device you're meditating on.
Yes. You are buying your way into nothingness.
And the ultimate irony to me has to be dopamine fasting.
Oh, dopamine fast.
Which was popularized by the exact same Silicon Valley engineers who built the attention economies we are all trying to flee from.
They're playing both sides of the board.
They really are. They engineer the psychological trap, right? They map our neural pathways to keep us hooked, and then they turn around and sell us the premium map to escape it. You have to buy specialized analog journals and premium app blockers just to participate in not participating.
It's brilliant, honestly. We're essentially secularizing ancient religious purification rites.
Wait, say more about that, like fasting.
Yeah, think of the historical precedents. The fasting before the feast, the wilderness wandering, the act of confession. The architecture of the ritual remains totally identical, but the goal has been completely repurposed.
Okay, how so?
Well, where a Buddhist monk historically renounced worldly attachment to transcend the self, we renounce refined sugar or screens to optimize our personal brand.
Oh, wow.
We endure deprivation for clearer skin, and a more engaging content strategy.
So it's basically like we have the mindset of a medieval penitent.
Yes. Starving yourself to get closer to God.
But instead of God, we're just doing it to take a superior mirror selfie after the juice cleanse.
Exactly.
Like, we haven't actually escaped the system at all. We just bought the premium ad-free version of it.
And the darkest part of that penitent analogy is that the marketplace knows exactly what it's doing. It realized the most profitable product isn't the thing that satisfies your desire.
What is it then?
It's the ritual that promises to extinguish your desire. We are caught in this strange loop where we invest heavy capital in rituals designed to liberate us from capital's demands.
I mean, that is incredibly bleak. But I do want to ground this for a second. Let's be honest about where this impulse comes from, because the exhaustion driving this detox culture, it is deeply physically real.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, our nervous systems literally were not built for the infinite scroll. Evolution did not equip us to process a 2 a.m. notification about a global geopolitical crisis mixed with a highly targeted ad for sweatpants.
No, the physiological reality of our burnout is undeniable. I mean, your cortisol levels are spiking over abstract threats delivered through glass screens.
Right.
The fatigue is real. The neurological fragmentation is completely real.
Someone described it to me the other day as feeling mentally constipated after a weekend of doom scrolling.
Oof, what an image.
Right, but that visceral somatic description just hit me so hard. The distress is authentic, but what drives me crazy is how the wellness industry intercepts that genuine suffering.
Yes, the interception.
Like, you see an influencer post a grid of 9 identical photos, golden hour lighting, the linen clothes burning a bundle of sage to, quote, clear the energy after a heavy week.
And what energy is actually being cleared in that image?
Exactly.
The sage isn't clearing the anxiety of late-stage capitalism. It isn't clearing the exhaustion of constant content creation, or the lack of affordable healthcare, or just the profound alienation of having to constantly perform authenticity for an algorithm.
Those structural issues are completely untouched.
Right. What gets cleansed by the sage is simply the unphotogenic moments. It's a ritual to maintain brand coherence. And this is exactly where detox culture crosses the line into a subtle, insidious form of violence.
Wait, a violence against ourselves, just because we're buying into the illusion.
Because it operates on pure gaslighting. Detox culture tells you that your systemic exhaustion is just a personal hygiene failure.
Oh.
It whispers that you are anxious not because you lack a social safety net or because you're working 60 hours a week while managing emotional labor for everyone around you. No, it tells you that you're anxious because you haven't optimized your breath work.
Wow.
It privatizes a collective political problem. It completely absolves the architects of our distress and places the burden of achieving purity entirely on your individual shoulders in a deliberately polluted world.
Okay, I hear that conceptually, but you're asking me to ignore my own biology here.
How so?
Well, when I put my laptop away, when I leave my phone on the kitchen counter and go for a walk in the woods, my resting heart rate drops. I actually do feel better. The noise stops. Are you seriously telling me that this biological relief is just complicity? Like, if it works, aren't I just protecting myself?
No. The relief you feel on that walk is very real. It is a precious temporary rupture in the circuit of constant stimulus and response. But this is crucial. We have to rigorously distinguish between symptom relief and an actual cure. By framing profound social and economic dislocations purely as matters of personal digital hygiene, you do become complicit in the broader system. You learn to police your own consumption with incredible fervor.
Like becoming my own warden.
Exactly. You become your own warden, while the structures generating your distress remain entirely intact and highly profitable.
Okay, so if the system is unbroken and the external world is still demanding our attention 24/7, why are we policing ourselves so hard internally?
Because the internal cop never retired.
The internal cop.
Yes. If we look at this through a Freudian lens, the internal moral tyrant, what Freud called the superego, it has simply rebranded.
It got an Instagram account.
It basically did. The superego used to broadcast from the confessional booth or the judging gaze of a strict parent. Today, it broadcasts from biohacking podcasts and the clean, minimalist aesthetic of a detox brochure.
But the message is the same.
Its core message hasn't changed a bit since the Victorian era. It says, you are contaminated, your desires are dangerous. Your body is a site of moral failure, you must purify yourself.
It's like we're living in a collective dream state. You know, you see a photo of avocado toast on linen, or a perfectly organized zero-waste pantry. And it's not actually about breakfast or groceries at all.
Not at all. Freud would scroll through your feed and see nothing but collective dream work.
Really?
Yeah, that avocado toast is a symbol. It's a fantasy of total control. It's a psychological projection of a life completely unmediated by chaos. Just as Freud taught his patients to read slips of the tongue to understand unconscious conflicts.
Right, saying one thing when you mean another.
Exactly. Today we have to read slips of the thumb.
Oh, yes. Reaching for the phone before you even consciously register that you're reaching for it.
Yes.
The compulsive refresh of the email inbox when you know for a fact nothing new has arrived. The midnight scroll.
Those aren't just bad habits to be hacked. They are symptoms. And in psychoanalysis, a symptom always points to a conflict the conscious mind cannot tolerate.
So what's the conflict?
We are projecting our unbearable internal messiness onto external objects. The detox ritual performs this brilliant psychological sleight of hand. It externalizes what is fundamentally internal.
So we label the algorithm or gluten or city noise as toxic.
Right. You don't feel fragmented because of sugar or your phone. You feel fragmented because the human psyche is naturally torn between irreconcilable demands.
Like what?
Freud called it the eternal war between Eros and Thanatos. Eros is the drive pulling us toward pleasure, connection, and the messy entanglement of life.
Okay, and Thanatos?
Thanatos is the death drive. It's the pull toward rest, zero-state dissolution, and total disconnection. That internal war is terrifying to consciously acknowledge, so we project it outward.
So we fight the sugar instead.
We wage war on sugar or screen time because we cannot bear the truth that our own desire is messy, insatiable, and structurally unsatisfiable.
It feels like having a leaky pipe in the basement, but instead of actually calling a plumber...
You're just standing there screaming at the water for being wet.
Exactly. We're calling the phone toxic because fixing the actual plumbing, confronting our own fear of being alone with our thoughts, is way too painful.
It's much easier to delete an app.
Yeah. We blame the sugar because it's easier than confronting the permanent gap between what we desperately want and what reality actually allows us to have.
And if we are actively suppressing all this psychological desire to connect or to consume, that energy has to go somewhere.
It can't just disappear.
Exactly. In the psyche, energy never simply vanishes. It transforms. This is the mechanism of sublimation. You take an unacceptable urge and channel it into a socially acceptable action.
Give me an example.
Well, the Victorian era sublimated raw sexual desire into aggressive industrial productivity. Today, we sublimate the desire to just collapse the fantasy of surrendering to chaos, of melting into the couch for 3 days with zero obligations.
We sublimate that into its precise opposite.
Yes, the hyper-disciplined detox.
We don't get to rest. We have to violently optimize our rest. We don't just eat cake. We have to master our relationship with sugar through a rigid protocol.
And we secretly enjoy the suffering of that rigid protocol.
They do.
We do. This is what psychoanalysts call jouissance. It's a painful, transgressive pleasure.
Oh, like when it hurts so good.
Sort of. The thrill isn't in eating the cake. The thrill is in the secret eroticized pleasure of refusing the cake, feeling the pang of hunger, and then posting about that refusal.
Oh, wow.
We don't actually want to eliminate desire.
Yeah.
We want to stage a dramatic theater around it.
Yeah.
The binge shame purge cycle is a compulsion to repeat the primal trauma of being a desiring creature in a limited world.
Oh, wow. So the detox from the detox.
Exactly.
This totally explains why we meticulously plan a cheat day after a month of clean eating. We are just setting a stage for our desire. Or why we set up a ring light to capture our raw reaction to turning notifications back on after a week offline.
It's all performance.
Even our surrender to impulse has to become highly structured content.
The psyche develops ingenious strategies to manage the terror of feeling incomplete. One strategy is to binge. The other is to pretend the whole doesn't exist by refusing desire altogether. This is the mechanism of reaction formation.
Wait, reaction formation? What is that mechanically? Are you saying that when I loudly tell everyone at a dinner party that I'm deleting Twitter for my mental health, my brain is actually just trying to hide how desperately I want people to interact with me?
Basically, yes. Mechanically, reaction formation is when your mind defends against a threatening, unacceptable impulse by exaggerating the exact opposite behavior.
Oh, that is sneaky.
It is. The person who loudly proclaims their absolute freedom from social media validation is often harboring the most intense, unacknowledged craving for connection. The mind says, I cannot handle how much I want to be seen, so I will perform a spectacular disappearance.
I have to stop and ask myself this then. When I loudly declare I'm going off the grid, I'm actually displaying my craving for attention. Like, I haven't healed my relationship with desire, I've merely changed costumes.
Very often, yes. And if the mind refuses to acknowledge it, the body takes the hit.
The body keeps the score, right?
Freud understood the body as the primary site of psychic conflict. In the Victorian era, hysteria was the body speaking what the mind could not socially express.
Like a woman developing unexplained paralysis when she felt trapped by her social duties.
Exactly. Today, the body speaks in new dialects.
Like adrenal fatigue, or leaky gut, or digital burnout.
Adrenal fatigue is the modern equivalent of Victorian hysteria.
Wait, really?
Mechanically, sure, your cortisol receptors might indeed be fried, but psychologically, it is the body speaking. When you cannot socially say, I refuse the demand to be always available, always optimizing, always performing.
Because you aren't allowed to just say, I quit.
Right. So your body develops a socially acceptable biological failure to grant you permission to rest. The symptom changes costume, but the conflict is eternal.
My physical exhaustion is just my body screaming that I refuse the demand to perform because I don't have the social permission to just tap out. That is a massive paradigm shift. It changes everything.
But let's look at the actual experience of doing the cleanse. Let's trace the timeline of what actually happens when we successfully disconnect. Because anyone who's done a silent retreat knows it is not the pure Zen we're promised in the brochures.
Not at all. Let's look at the neurology of a typical 7-day digital cleanse.
Walk me through it.
Day 1 is pure agitation. Your brain is starved of its usual dopamine spikes. You're pacing.
Oh, yeah.
Then day 2, you start experiencing phantom vibrations in your pocket. It's the ghost limb of connectivity.
I have had that. You swear the phone buzzed, you reach for it, and the phone is literally in the other room. Why does our brain do that?
Your brain has essentially rewired its reticular activating system. That's the network in your brainstem that regulates arousal and attention.
Right.
It is so conditioned to anticipate the dopamine hit of a notification that it lowers the threshold for sensory input. It basically starts hallucinating. It misinterprets the physical friction of your own clothes against your leg as a digital reward.
That is genuinely terrifying. It's a neurological withdrawal symptom. But then on day 3, this really unsettling psychological shift happens.
What happens?
The anxiety doesn't vanish, it transforms. You start to savor the deprivation. That tightness in your chest when you resist checking your email becomes proof that you're succeeding. Proof that you're becoming purified.
So it feels good, in a twisted way.
You learn to feed the superego's appetite by performing ever more elaborate acts of self-denial.
But people always say, I went off the grid and I finally heard my own authentic voice. If it's not our authentic voice who is speaking in the silence.
This is where we have to be ruthlessly honest with ourselves.
Okay.
When the noise of the external world recedes, it is not your authentic, pure self that rushes in to fill the vacuum. It is the superego.
Oh no.
Without TikTok sounds, podcast chatter, and notification pings to drown it out, the inner critic gets a private, uninterrupted audience with you.
The phone wasn't drowning out my true self. The phone was the only thing loud enough to drown out my own internal tyrant.
Exactly. And what does that internal tyrant say in the silence? It says, you did well today, but could you do better?
Always.
What if you fasted longer? What if you cut out gluten too? What if you deleted your accounts permanently? We mistake the absence of external noise for inner peace, when in fact we've merely created the optimal acoustic conditions for the internal judge to speak without interruption.
We just handed it a megaphone.
Exactly. The pursuit of purity just creates a new, even more insidious hierarchy of impurity.
So, if we synthesize this entire journey, we've essentially built gilded cages for ourselves, and we've decided to call them temples.
Beautifully put.
We mistake the performance of purity for actual psychological healing. And in the process, we've created this exhausting new hierarchy of virtue based entirely on who can deny themselves the most. The person who can sit in the coldest, plunge the longest, the person who can go 30 days without checking their inbox.
If Freud was sitting with you today, analyzing your screen time and your diet plans, he wouldn't try to sell you a cleanse.
No.
He would refuse the fantasy of the integrated pure self entirely. He would tell you that there is no pure self to return to beneath all this supposed modern contamination.
Because we're just messy.
Because the self is constituted by conflict. It is structurally built around contradictions.
So we have to mourn the fantasy of purity. We have to accept that we are forever contaminated by our own messy humanity.
We have to learn to tolerate our own contradictions without panicking, to realize that desire isn't a toxin to be flushed from the system. It is the very engine of psychic life.
Yeah.
Fragmentation isn't a failure you need to correct with a ceramic water filter. It's simply the condition of being a social creature with competing, contradictory needs. Freud wouldn't have sold you a wellness product.
He would have just listened.
He would have sat with you in the mess,
Yeah.
looked at your irreconcilable desires, and called it human.
Wow. You know, I'm thinking about you, the listener. Maybe you're sitting in traffic right now, or folding laundry, or maybe you are out on one of those walks trying to escape the noise of your own feed. We've spent this entire deep dive talking about what we're running away from and the elaborate, expensive traps we build to feel like we're escaping.
The invisible cages.
Exactly. So I want to leave you with a final, lingering thought to explore on your own today. What if the most radical detox you could possibly undertake isn't deleting your apps? What if it isn't fleeing to a cabin in the woods, or starving your cravings, or proving to the internet how much discomfort you can endure?
Then what is it?
What if the ultimate detox is detoxing from the voice of the superego itself? What would it look like to simply sit in the chaotic, messy, profoundly fragmented reality of your own mind? To look at all your hypocrisies, your cravings, your desperate need for connection, and instead of trying to cleanse it, you finally just call it human.